Good day, everyone. This session, I'm going to have a very, very brief overview on networks as it relates to information systems. Networks are on the periphery and not going to be the biggest focus as we learn about how to implement and manage information systems. I won't focus on this in great depth, just touch on some salient points that are important to level set and baseline our team for. So just bear with me for a few minutes. It's a short session, and hopefully it'll give you enough information about networks and what's important. So let's talk about networks. This was the third construct that I really wanted to focus on after talking about a little bit about hardware and software. So we're going to skim this, as I mentioned, and then for the next session, we'll focus more on data. Just to level set, again, networking is literally electronic linking of hardware and software. Well, software runs on hardware, and then the hardware gets networked. And why do we need to network? Well, we're spread apart, and COVID is, of course, this environment that we're living in has underscored how important networks are. If your internet goes down, you can't hear this video. That's for sure. For example, or you can't log on to your banking application, or you can't do many other things that you rely on networking for, which is literally the linking of geographically dispersed sets of hardware. Telecommunications, again, is the actual voice and data communications that are used by these network systems. Okay, so the prediction was networks will change everything, and they certainly do. The internet has changed everything, right? Telecommunications and networks are the backbone. Without the advancements that we've seen, we would not have these sophisticated software applications that we've been talking about, that I talked about in the last session. You just wouldn't have the power of computing that you do. So while I'm going to skim through this, I also want to underscore the importance of it. It's a changing marketplace. It's a marketplace that is evolving with more and more new and interesting network protocols. I know that everybody's familiar with 5G coming, for example, and of course, Wi-Fi many years ago had changed and created distributed devices. Our phones are able to do so much more thanks to Wi-Fi and data communications using the cell towers with more advanced networks and so on. So this is an increasingly important aspect of business because it has enabled this distributed processing and globalization of businesses that we all enjoy. There's five primary reasons for networking. I am not going to go into great depth of each. I'm just going to sort of mention them as an overview. Obviously, we talked about sharing of technology resources. There's also sharing of data. Data flows from one end to the other of the world in rapid speed so that it can be consumed by applications, whether those applications are on the cloud or within the enterprise. Data can be stored anywhere, right? It doesn't have to be stored where the application or the hardware resides. Third, distributed processing, okay, is key, and I think that's where networking had started and the evolution of networking had started. We've got need for enhanced communications, which means we're using audio, video, sharing of files. Just as an example, or Zoom conferencing, you can see so much robust features that enable us to stay connected by being able to chat and send data and share our screens, audios and videos, and I can even record these sessions. This is all powered by these networks, and I consider these kinds of examples as the enhanced communication needs. And finally, market outreach, right? Marketing outreach. We're able to connect to our clients, to our customers, to our partners in a more robust fashion. So this is all powering the network, right? A telecommunications network is way more than a series of just the wireless signals, whether they're digital or analog signals. It's way more than that. There's transmission going on, right? There's the actual movement. There's the processing of that, of the stuff that gets transmitted, the data. There's checks and balances to make sure things got to their destination in the way we intended. So there's formatting going on. There's standards like the XML standards that we were talking about earlier in the earlier session. There's conversion happening. There's coding systems and speed changes from one system to another. There's routing. There's this whole algorithmic uh, uh, action and play behind networking that chooses the most efficient path when multiple paths are available, right? How do I get my data in a more reliable way, in a secure way? Do I use VPN? Do I not? When do I use these features? Is it a secured layer? Is it not secured? Is it encrypted? And which route am I taking? All of this is happening behind the scenes. And there's obviously monitoring going on, and there's interfacing going on and integration going on. So huge amount of heavy lifting behind the scenes that most business application providers or programmers or IT functions don't even see, right? But this is an important piece of IT that's happening largely for our purposes in the background. Internet service providers, also known as ISPs, sell access to the internet, right? So we get access to the networks outside our four walls by using some of these services that become available. They obviously become available at a cost. Businesses pay a lot more than consumers, but the whole system works with the way it's organized. We also have more options. We have DSL options. We have cable modem. We can do communications through satellite, and there's pros and cons. There's wireless, there's wired. I know in my house I use wired Ethernet for my Zooms because I want uninterrupted conferencing going on. So many of you use wireless. I know I use wireless in certain areas of my house, but not in others. And of course, the pricing methods for different internet access changes. The level of hardware you need and the types of hardware you need also is different. There are different network types. There's LANs, there's WANs, there's backbone internets. Just I'm trying to introduce these to you. I'm not going to drill down too much further. Many of you know what this is, and if you don't, read about it. It's not incredibly important to know these differences for the context of this course, but I just wanted you to know that these types exist. And just the more interesting ones I just picked out were from the internet applications arena. And we know some of these great applications that we use and we've been discussing that use the internet, use networks, right? We are constantly on a search engine. If we're not on it a few times an hour, probably at least a few times a day, most of us. Social networking, everybody's familiar with. Databases like listserv and wiki that we look up information. Of course, email, instant messaging. I know at work I use a tool that's relatively a new entrant in the last couple of years. It's called Slack, which is a wonderful alternative to standard IM. From a personal basis, I use WhatsApp and just a bunch of different internet applications that we're all familiar with that all use the backbone, right? Use the internet for communication. So that's just a broad brush on network types and just an overview on networks that I wanted to give you folks today. I hope this has been informative, and please stay tuned for the next session or the next recording that becomes available, which is likely to be on data and databases. Thank you.